Hello everyone and welcome to EPR Magazine interactive session on what is next for electrical equipment market in India. The session is powered by RR Kabel. The electrical equipment industry in India has witnessed an unprecedented growth during the last decade and has emerged as one of the fastest growing sectors. Higher socio-economic development powered by the government's push for power for all is driving the current market growth. Reports suggest that the market is poised to grow by US $70.69 billion between 2020 and 2024, progressing at a CAGR of around 16%. The industry body EMA also aims to boost the export of electrical equipment from $7 billion to $25 billion by 2025. But there are challenges and uncertainties as well. So in next 1.5 hours, you are going to witness an engaging interactive session on what is next for electrical equipment market in India. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to introduce you to today's distinguished speakers. We have Mr. Vijay P. Karia, CMD of Ravin Group of Companies, Mr. Shreegopal Kabra, MD and Group President of RR Global, Mr. Harish Agarwal, CEO of Supreme & Company, and Mr. Vipul Ray, MD of Elmex Controls. We thank our sponsor for this session, RR Kabel. RR Kabel is part of RR Global, an $850 million US company in the electrical sector with a presence in over 85 countries globally. Offers a wide range of premium wires and cables for various residential, commercial, industrial, and infrastructure purposes. Delegates, get ready to witness a thought-provoking session. To take this session forward, I would like to invite today's first speaker, Mr. Vijay Karia, Chairman and Managing Director, Ravin Group of Companies, to give us a brief overview of his profile. He has been awarded as one of the Asia's most promising business leaders in 2016 and listed among India's top 50 entrepreneurs by the Economic Times in 2015. Mr. Karia is a visionary industry leader with a vast knowledge and experience in the power and electricity sector. He was recently recognized as a leading industrialist at the House of Lords, United Kingdom. Mr. Karia has also been elected as Vice President of IEEMA for the year 2020-21. India has been able to make renewable energy economically competitive. Now, e-mobility is also gaining momentum. With this, the electrical equipment industry is witnessing a transition. So, Mr. Karia will be sharing his thoughts on this. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Vijay Karia.
Thank you, Mr. Roy, for those warm and encouraging words. I don't know if I deserve all of them or not, but I will take it as a compliment. Yes, two things that I will say. One is, as you very correctly said, that the industry has had a phenomenal growth. We can compare this growth with your normal growth, that is in terms of GDP, or we can compare this growth in terms of what it should have been and what it is. Now, if you look at the first part, yes, we have grown. The electrical industry has grown by a fair amount of leaps and bounds, but is it where it should have been? My answer would be no. Couple of things that have been kind of upsetting, or I would say holding back the electrical industry. The first and foremost one is the lack of research and development, which should have been there, but unfortunately, the Indian industry is lacking it. And therefore, what we do is we try and follow foreign products and go according to the kind of specifications that people outside the country decide. That is one part. The second part is that the electrical industry has a very small global share. The Indian electrical industry, I'm saying, has a very small global share in the business, and this needs to be increased tremendously. Mr. Shreegopal Kabra is going to be talking about this part, I believe. So I'll not emphasize on that. But the important thing that we need to understand is, yes, the industry is transitioning. And this transition can happen very quickly and very smoothly with the help of the industry, or it can happen painfully if the electrical industry does not align to the fact that we need to change ourselves drastically in terms of products that we are offering, in terms of the way we are doing business, in terms of quality, as also we need to be constantly innovating. I'll take the first matter of innovation, and it is not entirely the blame of the industry that we are not innovating enough, because we are bound by 3-4 factors. One of the first factors being the L1 policy of the government, and the government is a major buyer in the electrical industry. Now, in the L1 category, you do not have space for any kind of innovation. Plus, you have to give your product according to a specification. So therefore, every manufacturer tries to give his product to the barest minimum of those specifications. Therefore, we always have that thin line of product quality between failure and a safety hazard. And therefore, we see huge number of fires. We see lots of things which should not be happening happen. India loses a huge amount of money as well as lives as well as goods every year in these fires, 90% of which are electrical fires. So therefore, as I said, the first part being the L1 policy, the second part being the lack of innovation happening, because if you come out with an innovative product and you are unique in that innovative product, the product is not bought because there is no other comparative. And the second part, therefore, is that having 3 tenderers minimum quoting for that kind of quality or product is also a deterrent to the industry. If my company has done some research and development and brought out a new product and my competition has not, then I deserve to be approved for that product, and the product needs to be bought to encourage innovation, to encourage this transition. The third part is the lack of quality in terms of installation, and therefore a huge amount of skilling and education needs to be given to the installers for these products that they use. We see a lot of times that people are always either a jugaad system for installation or lack of experience and expertise. Especially I am seeing in the segment where we are predominantly in, that is wires and cables. This is very, very predominant. Another segment which we are seeing is in the solar side, where lack of installation quality does make huge amount of difference in the product. But again, the installer has to meet the L1 price. So therefore, he is always trying to maximize his profits and minimize the amount of time that he puts and the amount of manpower that he will put. The fourth part, which we need to correct and correct very quickly, is the finances and the availability of money to the company. India is a very unique country in the sense that almost all electrical products are bought on credit, and that credit is extended by the supplier. Now, it means that rather than being a manufacturer and focusing on my business, I'm more of a banker to a lot of large companies, corporates, utilities, etc. And since a major amount of buying is from the government, we tend to lose out on a lot of availability of money because people are always stuck. And you know that today banks are not being very lenient in extending money. If these points are addressed, and we are looking to address them with the government in the next few weeks, few months, because today we see that the government is willing to listen. And in some areas, very honestly, I would admit that the government is ahead of the industry in terms of innovations, in terms of implementing new policies, in terms of implementing new ideas. And the last few months, especially after the lockdown and the political scenario on the border front, has resulted in the government seriously listening to the industry, taking suggestions from them, and trying to work a way out of this. Therefore, industry needs to be united in terms of what they want to convey. And this is where the vast disparity of the industry comes in, because there is a set of MNCs or global manufacturers who want X policies, and there is a set of the smaller manufacturers, the MSME segment, the people who are the real employment generators, who want Y policies, and that X and Y can never meet. Therefore, the government always gets mixed signals as to what is to be done. Coming to three exciting areas and the opportunities before us, I think the most exciting area which government is again ahead of is in terms of electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure and the increased amount of electricity that will be required for this infrastructure. Now, this would result in direct benefit to the country in terms of reduced oil imports, and oil is the biggest area of foreign exchange outflow for our country. If we are able to reduce this substantially, and I believe that the next decade will see the demand for oil falling substantially, then the electric vehicles that we see will also result in low pollution, higher safety standards, as well as availability of lots of electrical infrastructure all over the country. And maybe we are seeing for the first time, at least in our lifetime, that there is a government who is talking about reducing electricity tariffs. And that's a very, very encouraging sign that reduction of electricity tariff, increase of electrical infrastructure, a focus on safety, and bringing in new and innovative products is going to be a huge transitioning point for the electrical industry. And this, where we are standing today, is an inflection point where we can say that, say, from this month 2020 onwards, you know, the whole outlook of the country and the government changed and moved away from the old mindset to a newer mindset, moved away from mere costs and moved away from selling power at reduced rates to some set of people and selling it at vastly enhanced rates to industry and commercial users, and therefore making them uncompetitive in the world. we'll see this happening, that the government is now talking of direct benefit transfer, and if that happens, we save a lot of money, and that money, that almost a lakh of crore of rupees a year, will go a long way in building the electrical infrastructure. Electric vehicles is going to be a very big and exciting area. The storage, that is the battery part for these vehicles, is equally exciting and important. The third area is the renewable energy, and especially solar and wind are going to be very, very big takeaways. And we've seen that we've come to one of the lowest solar tariffs in the world. Government has now to stop fighting a war to reduce the tariff by a few paise. In fact, let the developers be comfortable in earning money. The government should focus on increasing the quality of the installations and increasing the efficiencies of the installations rather than merely reducing the costs. But nevertheless, we are seeing that with an energy exchange that has come up, the lot of producers of renewable energy are selling on the electricity exchanges. If the utilities are not paying, the government is cracking hard on utilities and discoms to turn profitable, to reduce their losses. And this is again going to be a transitioning point for the industry, because you'll see a huge demand for products which will go into replacement of the existing infrastructure. So for the electrical vehicles, there is going to be creation of new infrastructure. For the utilities and for the people who are trying to reduce losses, there is going to be replacement of the existing infrastructure. And the whole thing is that we don't have to dismantle too much of infrastructure to create the new one, because we are at a stage where the country has got one of the lowest per capita consumption of electricity. So exciting times in those terms. And I believe that we are going to see technologies which are going to be changing the course of lives for people. A few days ago, we had a online call with Shri R.K. Singh, and one of the things he suggested to us was, why not take the cooking gas out of the consumption by a domestic user, and why not you'll come to electricity for cooking. Now, if you take on one side electric vehicles replacing combustion vehicles, on the other side, if you take the antiquated infrastructure and needing replacement, on the third side, you take air conditioning demand, you take cooking demand, you are going to see that this whole world, especially our country, is going to revolve around the word electricity. And therefore, I keep saying that the word energy is changing to the word electricity. And we are going to see a good demand in terms of electrical equipment, electrical manufacturers. But one of the axes that I have to grind with the electrical industry is that we are too focused on poor quality. We are too focused on lower pricing. A lot of areas where we see that we should have been world leaders, like take the case of LED lights. And, we proudly claim that we brought down the prices of LED lights to about 10% of its original price. Very good. You did that. But are LED lights exported outside India? They're not. Why? We are yet importing the diodes, we are importing, and the assembly that is done in the worst of conditions. Virtually, you can call them tin sheds. So the whole objective is to produce cheap. Now, if the objective is to produce cheap, then you are going to make infrastructure also which is cheap. So what we should urge, and I urge the EPR magazine also to make this a focus, that now that the government is talking about creating substances, they're talking of creating modules where manufacturers, clusters where manufacturers of similar industry will be located. They're talking about battery manufacturing, etc. My simple policy request to the government would be encourage local manufacturers, Indian manufacturers, allow them to bring in technology, but let this technology lie in the hands of the Indian manufacturers and not in the hands of merely the multinationals as it is prone to be. B, please let the industry mushroom rather than having one corporate or two corporates be at a level where nobody else can compete with them because they have got access to technology, they've got access to money. We will become a monopolistic market. If we are to truly succeed in Atmanirbhar Bharat, then it has to be a mushroom effect. It cannot be a single banyan tree effect. And this is something which I see that if the government helps this transition, this industry is going to go places. So a huge amount of requirement for infrastructure. In fact, next week we are having a conference which IEEMA is organizing under the aegis of Digilect Bharat. And this conference is going to focus on what substances, what manufacturing capabilities are required to bring up this electrical industry to another level. The last point that I will make is that there is a big convergence happening where the thin line between electrical and electronics is slowly vanishing, because now electrical is also dependent on electronics. Similarly, telecommunication, and we are seeing that a lot of our electrical equipment is installed with telecommunication equipment. So there is going to be this convergence between telecommunication, electrical, electronics, as well as vehicle manufacturers, two-wheeler manufacturers, cooking range manufacturers. So what was isolated in pockets of industry is all now going to converge into the electrical industry. So I'm sure all the people sitting in this panel are going to be very excited about the fact that they are in the electrical industry, but now we'll have to work very hard to see that we formulate proper policies, we formulate proper SOPs in terms of manufacturing standards, and take the government as our partners, and the government also takes the industry as their partner for this huge and exciting time ahead.
Now in this session of EPR Magazine webinar powered by RR Kabel, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Bipul Ray, Managing Director, Elmex Controls Private Limited. He is also the Vice President of IEEMA, the Apex Association of the Indian Electrical Equipment Manufacturing Industry. Mr. Ray has been a member of the IEEMA Executive Council since 2015 and has actively pursued matters related to MSME, International Business Division, member connect initiatives, and policy matters related to tariff and customs. Today, as an IEEMA representative, Mr. Ray will talk on the recent performance of the electrical equipment industry in India. So let's welcome Mr. Bipul Ray.
Thank you. Wonderful opening by Vijay P. So he's kind of covered the whole broad spectrum of the where we are in terms of electrical industry, energy, and all the aspects that it entails. Just to before we get into the current state of the electrical industry, we have to set the context right, in the sense that this pandemic is a 1 in 100-year kind of situation. Right? And it is something that has affected everybody. And there are a few things that have come out very clearly. The most developed country is struggling, and also the developing countries are struggling. So this is an event and an external jerk, if you may, which has brought the impact to different industries, and electrical industry being one of them. So we have to set that context right, and we have to set our expectations to making sure that we have to deal with this crisis, and whatever we do out of this crisis is important. But like they also say, never let a crisis go waste. And I think that's the key, that what is it that this has brought for us. If you go a little bit back, while we entered the February, March year end last year, electrical industry in India was already in a degrowth situation. So, and we were suffering already the issues that Vijay P very elaborately talked about, payment issues, L1 issues, quality. I mean, we were already going through that. And then this shock has come. But if you look at, like I say, from a broader perspective, electrical industry is somewhere in between. So we have got the shock, but we are not a tourism or we are not an airline industry. We are somewhere in between. And now if you look at the last couple months, and I say the recovery pretty much from June onwards, right? You should forget April, May, then the industry is bouncing back. Right. So when we look at if you leave out the 2 lockdown months, the industry was shut down. So that everybody has come to, and going forward, the power consumption has also come to where it was. I mean, you must be reading that in the newspapers. So we think that we are kind of standing up back. We feel that the electrical industry is in a stable state right now. It's a very careful situation, and we need to move ahead. If you move ahead, then there is something that I always say, that we need to move with courage and care, and which means there is still the pandemic with us. It has not gone away. So we have to ensure the safety, we have to ensure proper working environments, and we still have to take our business risk. Given this situation, where do we actually focus, and what happens to the industry going forward? And that's exactly what Vijay was talking about, that while we are in this situation, we have to look forward and see how we can make the best out of this crisis. So there were few things that were already happening, which will get accelerated. So on the positive sides, the infrastructure on railways, for example, is something that is a big focus for us. So that will get accelerated. There is still an ongoing, continuing focus on the RE side. So renewable is getting even more push from the government side. So these are the 2 initiatives that are ongoing, which will lead us, if I may, out of some part of the crisis. This situation has also put us in a position where the entire concept of Atmanirbhar has not only become an economic reality or an economic necessity, but it has also become a political or a geopolitical necessity. And there are 2-3 things that come out of it. One is that we need to be self-sustained, we need to be competitive, and need to do our own products by ourselves. I think, and Kabra is going to talk about vocal for local, so I'll not get into that. The other thing on the external side, what it has done for us is that the other countries have realized that a sole dependence on one country is not that great. Right? So it has put us as a good alternative, provided we take that opportunity. So I'm saying that there were some opportunities already there, which will get accelerated, which is railways and RE. And going forward, we see more opportunities in EV. We also see some opportunities on the IoT side, so the digitization side. And on the export side, which again, Harish is going to talk about. So the external perception has also changed, and the dependency on one country is not what the global economy is looking for. So while we walk through this, tightrope of pandemic, we should be conscious of all the opportunities that this gives us. So in that sense, electrical industry is poised, I would say, right now in a balanced state, but poised to take quite a bit of growth in these kind of areas. The other thing that this industry is transitioning, and which is a very small thing, but we have to always think about it, is that the whole electrical industry generation and distribution, now we are talking about a producer and a consumer, right? So you have the rooftops and the distributed energy systems, which means it brings out a lot of opportunity for storage, for smart devices, and we need to manage it well. So those are the things that the electrical industry has to look for. One key aspect which will give more opportunity is safety, and more so the reliability. So while Vijay P talked about safety, I think today, unfortunately, we still have hospitals going without power sometimes, and we have a result which is not, which none of us like, especially today when we have so many people on ventilators. So such kind of situation, we are directly responsible, and I am with Vijay there, that the quality that we supply, the reliability that we give, in some sense, as an industry, we are being responsible. We can't make the government responsible for everything. Last but not the least is the government and the policies that are coming, especially for the Atmanirbhar. There is a revised definition for domestic content. So these are the things on which the government has moved very quickly, very efficiently, right? And we see that this will bring more and more opportunities for local manufacture. And while this is happening, if we really support and really work with this administration in strengthening our economy or manufacturing base, I think that's the way to go. Last, again, one small point which Vijay P talked about is innovation. And as EMA, we have done MOUs with the NASCOM startup IoTs, and you see lot of young talent. Today there are equipments even which were displayed in Electrama last time. There are a lot of startups coming in the energy management space, right? Who can tell you how to manage your energy. So these are the opportunities that we should look forward. And when we go this time to address these opportunities that India is posing, we should take a global view. So we should not look at India alone as a market, which itself is good, but look at global market. I think those are the way the green shoots, if you may, are coming up. We are stable at this point. We need to look at opportunities slightly away from what our core sector is, which is the T&D, because it's highly capex oriented. I think capital investment will take some time. We have to respect that government has different priorities. And capital expenditure will take some hit. I mean, we have to, there are political and economic realities. So while we work through our traditional investment cycle or the capex cycle coming back and D&D growing back to what we expected to in maybe by 22, 23, there are a lot of these other opportunities that we can work with and grow the industry.
Thanks, Mr. Ray. Indian electrical equipment and electronics industry was till now importing a substantial volume of raw materials, sub-assemblies, as well as finished goods. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi's clarion call to be vocal for local, the homegrown companies are inching towards becoming Atmanirbhar. To talk on this topic, I would invite industry veteran Mr. Shreegopal Kabra ji. Mr. Kabra is the Managing Director and President of RR Global, an $850 million diversified group of industries focusing mainly on infrastructure and electrical solutions spread across 85 countries globally. Mr. Kabra is credited to being the first to introduce the wires and cable industry to low smoke, zero halogen cables with Unilay core technology, a unique product that is virtually fireproof, enhancing safety standards. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Shreegopal Kabra to talk on vocal for local.
Thank you, Subhajit. It's difficult after talking by Vijay Bhai and Vipul Bhai. It's a tough task, but I'll try to cover the subject. First of all, vocal for local, we need to change the language from English to Hindi. See, we talked about this, otherwise it's difficult. It means generally people don't understand what we want to really talk. See, it's a general thing, but then as a system will talk. See, we need to decide whether we want to, which route we want to take. We want to take a Chinese route or we want to take a European route. This is a big challenge because see, if you look into Chinese route, then we will not be focused on quality. We cannot become a leader. If you want to become a European pattern, see, electrical industries, fortunately, is totally controlled by all European companies. You take Siemens, Schneider, Philips, Legrand, all the companies, except from US, we got only two companies, Eaton and GE. Otherwise, most of the respectable companies are from Europe. So I think so, if we really want to become vocal to local and global, we should follow the culture of European companies. Their first culture is they believe in innovation, they believe in quality, They believe in becoming global player. Otherwise, what will happen, that India will be another China. Unfortunately or fortunately, government is not focusing on electrical product. See, if you look into the priority sector which has come, it is electronic is there. See, on mobile phone manufacturing, government is going to give the huge incentive. But since I got the entire Apple case study, this Foxconn will get $12 per mobile as a manufacturing charges. The government is looking for $5 trillion economy, so the game of top line will be there, but not in terms of labor intensive, in terms of local material using. So when Apple, they supply half of the raw material, most of the raw material will come imported, only it will be assembled in India and they will get crores of rupees and the incentive. Other than, I am not against that in electronic, of course, this will create a big name in the world that all the mobile phones will be manufactured by made in India. Like see, today we use the mobile phone or iPad or laptop. It is from American company, but it's a made in China. So this will be a plus point that government should focus on this, but this will be a plus point to create a brand that India is giving the quality product to all over the world for some other company. But if same focus, because since we all four panelists are from IEEMA, we two are the past president, one is incoming vice president. So we should focus on government, that government should give a respect to electrical industries and electrical industry should be focused. See, advantage, electrical industries give a lot of employment. And India can create a big brand and big name. Now, what is going to be the challenge in the next 5 years? See, today we all are very happy with Atmanirbhar Bharat that everyone is talking against China. But MSME need to understand, and because especially most of the manufacturer MSME who are going to be an economic drive, and they will give the employment lot. So what should government think and what is worries? That most of the European company, even from mid-size to big companies, like I agree with Vijay that we are going towards the monopolies. Like say all the top electrical company has been sold to all multinational companies, like CLS sold to Siemens, L&T sold to Schneider, and many more on sale. So this we are going towards the, of course, they will be only in India, but really as a focus, we should look into that how can homegrown entrepreneur, how can the local company, because see, the advantage, the shareholders are Indians, workers are Indian, in multinational company, the profit and the royalty goes to the out of India. And we are just getting a name and we are getting some employment. So this is a big challenge. We don't have money for the innovation. We don't have courage to focus on innovation. We don't believe in research. Do we want to like a Chinese to make a copy? It's not a sustainable model. Maybe short term, it's okay. But in anything, then what we are talking now on Atmanirbhar Bharat, everything should be on a long-term basis. So just we are talking also next year what will happen. See, company and people are running month to month and quarter to quarter. See, from month to month and quarter to quarter, you cannot run the company. Even a medium scale industries also, they should have a 5 years goal, 5 years target. But what we do as a company, we make a target for top line and bottom line. The rest are missing. Any company cannot sustain just based on making a target of top line and bottom line. Figures look good, but then all the figures, when you focus more on this, this doesn't become sustainable. Now, what is the biggest challenge in India now? That all the customer, all electrical contractor, infrastructure company, government, we don't get payment on time. This is the biggest challenge. Vijay has covered, but then even in private, the biggest name, the biggest infra company in India don't make payment in time. All big multinational companies, they don't make payment in time. Government, of course, everyone knows, especially electricity board. Other department, we get payment. We also do some mechanical third party, whereby there is no payment issues there. But into electrical sector, the biggest challenge is payment. So if MSME or even corporates, how they can survive? How can be economical? See, ultimately, we need to think that to become an economical, the two things need to be very much focused. One is on quality and one is on payment terms. The best part, because we deal a lot of business in Europe, we have a lot of presence in Europe. Not a single day payment with the local also. whether we export or even our customer, when they supply with their customer, there is not even a single day payment delay is there. The terms and conditions are so clear, so crystal, and they have a nice insurance policy also. If customer busts, they get money from insurance. So these are the challenges that one is payment is not sure. If payment is gone now for check bouncing, they also government has changed the rule. Once a period has changed, it will go to civil. So now customer also not fear, my check is bounced, you cannot do nothing. So it will take another 5-10 years to fight the case. So these are the discipline, unless and until we have. Then the quality. Today I was talking to one of my friend. He is making transformer for solar company. It's a quite interesting. Now that the biggest company, I cannot take the name. Now they are want to shift from transformer from copper to aluminum. They will save the cost, and everyone knows in electrical product, copper is much better at any given time than aluminum, just because of cost saving. We are making solar cable. We are unable to sell a single meter solar cable in India. We export big quantity because the solar cable used in India. Even see, we ask even TVU approval. We have TVU approval. Vijay P also got TVU approval, but really, how many companies in India, cable manufacturers, are giving real TVU certified cable? Because customer is looking for the price. So we need to come out from price war. See, government is L1. We understand there are rules. We are trying as a IEEMA. I was past president. Then we also tried that L1 should come. Most of they should remove L1 and H1 and take the middle. There should be a right policy whereby CBC norms can be changed. Otherwise, challenge in CBC. L1 you can't go anywhere. But see, L1 is not a good practice at all. So there we need to change the basic changes required. The same thing in private company. Now fire, last week I was in seminar, the maximum fire taking place in hospital. Because today hospitals are only working. Otherwise, see, fire is a big challenge. And why fire? 90% is electrical. Then again short circuit. Now, I would like to raise this wire cable industries. Is there any country from EPR magazine I want to ask and make a survey? Is FRS wire anywhere in the world, domestic? You will not find a single country. I myself travel to 99 countries, I do business. But as a FRS wire, someone started 40 years ago and we are following it. Class 5 conductor in building wire. Anywhere you go to IC, you check the BASEC, you check the BD, you check the NFUs, you check any worldwide, any standard body, you will not find class 5 conductor as a building wire. Now, because of class 5 conductor, the energy cost is going up. 7 to 8% energy cost is taking more into class 5 conductor. So these are the challenges. What contractor does, what consultant does, they approve 5-7 brands. Then contractor goes for the cheapest one. So these are the challenges. Unless and until we don't focus, because Harish is going to take the subject beyond the boundaries. If you don't use local good quality, how can we become a global player? Because to make a true standard in the company is not possible. We should have minimum reach compliance. We are talking ROHS. ROHS is an old thing. It's a 3 or 5 years before it has to be ROHS compliance. Today, entire world has moved to reach compliance. How many companies, all the electrical products are reach compliance? You will find very few. Or one or two companies will have which will be 100% reach compliance. So, otherwise, what will happen? People will go for increasing. Those who want quality, they will import the product. So, it's a big decision that we should have. Then BIS should be very strong. CA should take a very strong. NBC in real estate sector, because we're going to use correction real estate sector, the 1% cost will increase maximum into real estate. Only 1% is the maximum cost. If they use all good electrical products, they use all good electrical contractors. See, installation and electrical contractor. Installation, consultant and contractor should be responsible for any wrong thing. This should be a very strict norms. Otherwise, what will happen? We will keep talking that we want to be a vocal for local, we want to be a global player. It's only certain. It's not an election campaign. We are talking here about the business. We are talking about the safety of the people. So safety for us as Indian, because we are 1.4 billion people. So nobody is bothered about the safety of people. So these are big challenge. So more population does not mean that our people should die because of fire. And everyone knows that in fire, the biggest challenge is smoke. So last week when I was there, the consultant was there, BS was there. She tell me now, FRLS, why they use FRLS? They should go for PVC wire only. You look into panel board industries. In panel board, there is a huge opportunity they can make exports. But 90% of copper bus bar, which is including all multinational company, I'm very blunt, I can talk on any name. They also use, because they squeeze the supplier, they use bus bar. 90% of copper bus bar in India is made from scrap. Is it the right product? We are talking about the quality. Are we looking for safety? So same thing again, it will come, whether we need to decide, we want the China model, you give the price, accordingly I'll make a material. So LED light, Vijay P really mentioned, nobody raised the issue, because in today's this 6-year government time, you cannot raise any issue which will hamper to your life. Otherwise, how many bulbs we have the right from ESSL? If you really make survey, it will be a big challenge. To get anything goes price below the line. Even like company like Philips, they introduced another brand now today, which is very cheap, cheaper than any company, because the Philips is Chinese owner. Company Philips brand is from Holland, but company is shifted to Chinese company. So from whom to trust? This will be a big challenge. So we as a MSME, we as an Indian company, we should focus on brand building. See, people think only B2C should be a brand building, but it's my real belief that B2B also need a big brand building. Otherwise, the multinational company will kill everyone. I'm not against that multinational company. Let them grow. We'll be here. But then as a core strength of India economy, Indian policies, that MSME or small scale industries are the backbone of our economy, backbone of the country, and backbone of this electrical industries. Our EPR also, out of our 850 members, 80% are from MSME. So we need to focus on how this MSME can grow. Government should look into electrical cluster. They should have at least 2 electrical. In Gujarat, Baroda, there are many electrical companies are there. They can look for 4,000 acre, 5,000 acre, 10,000 acre land for electrical sector. And like say in China, they have a product-wise cluster. I never been to China, but then China, I always listen that they have got a cluster. In one area, all you find LED companies are there. In one area, you find all switchgear companies are there. There are a lot of opportunities. So like that, we should also have a electrical cluster, because see, always just because of electrical is always, तो क्या बोलते हैं उसको, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक के पीछे वो इलेक्ट्रिकल इतना दब जाता है कि वो फोकस वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक हमारा ईमा का नाम भी इंडियन इलेक्ट्रिकल है, तो हम भी क्या है, तो नाम के लिए इलेक्ट्रॉनिक को ही फोकस होता है, इलेक्ट्रिकल हमेशा रह जाता है. तो इलेक्ट्रिकल इंडस्ट्रीज को कैसे फोकस किया जाए? आज ओनली मोटर क्वालिटी हैज इंप्रूव्ड. Look into our transfer quality, look into our cable quality. I can prove our friends are writing FRS cable into big government projects. Cable is different. I also got an opportunity. Consultant told, okay, don't worry, we'll manage. You supply us. You only write FRS and give me the regular cable. But as a policy, RR we cannot give, and we don't want to move to this business. But many of our friends, our member of association, member of our everything, but they are doing. So these are the big challenges. Government should come with a very strict rule of electrical safety, electrical standard, and we should go for entirely, if really we want local to vocal and global, we should have 100% IC standard we should follow. So I think so this will change the economy, this will change the trust factor, because see, even today, good builders, they are importing transformer from Germany because they don't trust on local companies. People are, this fireproof cable, people are importing. Even Delhi Metro, you find that all the companies are, they are imported, cable is from UK. Why we Indian company can't supply? Because we don't have testing facility, neither we have the trust among the companies. So these are the big challenges. We need to focus on quality, financial discipline. Government should bring a, there is a law for MSME that they have to make payment on time. But again, we should have this country, it's like a commitment should be there. So as a industry, as a company, our commitment levels are very low in terms of quality, in terms of delivery, in terms of payment. वो चलता है करके जो चल रहा है, अब ये चलने वाला नहीं है. आज हम देख रहे हैं कि सारी कंपनीज ग्लोबली मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी देखो ह्यूज मसल पावर इन टर्म्स ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी चेंजिंग. आज हम भी देख रहे हैं कि ओनली फ्यू ग्रुप्स आर ग्रोइंग, द रेस्ट आर इन अ प्रॉब्लम. So these are the big challenges. India is going to be superpower. So we are looking for $5 trillion economy, but $5 trillion economy में electrical can play, or electrical growth always is a double than GDP. So this should be a most priority sector.
Thank you so much, sir. And you rightly raised the concerns for the industry. Today we have Mr. Harish Agarwal, CEO of Supreme and Company, who is also the chairman of International Business Division at IEEMA. We would like to hear from him about the opportunities for Indian electrical equipment industry in overseas markets. To talk about more about Mr. Agarwal, he is also the immediate past president of IEEMA. He was the vice president of SIGRE India. He was the member of Executive Committee, Central Board of Irrigation and Power, CBIP. So let's welcome Mr. Harish Agarwal ji.
Thank you very much, Subhajit. With such superlative performance from openers and middle order batsmen, as a tailender, I am under very little pressure. Thank you to my co-panelists for that. And as Vijay said in the very beginning, that going forward, consumption level, electricity is becoming synonymous with energy. Regardless of the mode of generation of energy, at consumption level, in times to come, it will all be electricity. So there is scope globally, huge market is awaiting us. About that, there is no doubt, because consumption is going to increase. And as we will see, and as very rightly pointed out by Vijay, mobility, telecom, electronics, storage, they are all going to get integrated with electricity being the pivot. And as we know, still in sub-Saharan Africa alone, almost 500 million people still do not have access to any kind of electricity, and maybe more than 1 billion have access to what can only be called intermittent and inadequate electricity. So the market will grow. Market will definitely grow. Now, where do we fit in? There is a pushback against China. For a long time, China was perhaps the default leader of the supply chain. And supply chain was almost synonymous, global supply chain were almost synonymous with China. That situation, everybody seeks to change, but we are all chained to a globalized world, much as we may, due to geopolitical and political realities which Vipul was talking about, much as we may want to go self-reliant, but the fact remains that we cannot wish away the presence of deeply entrenched supply chains. There will be space vacated, there will be opportunities, but we always need to keep in mind that we have far more agile and nimble-footed contenders to contend with. India has a lot of strength. India has manpower, high-quality manpower. India has engineering strength. But at the same time, we are hampered with very high capital costs. India problem is not being low on competitive index. India's problem is with low on R&D and innovation index. Competition, we face problems where we are subjected to much higher commodity prices than our rivals are, or where our rivals indulge in predatory pricing, or where our rivals are able to offer a package along with financial support, which unfortunately our situation do not permit, like it does in case of, let's say, China. So these things apart, there's really, price is not the issue. The issue is the public procurement policies, which in the very beginning told by Vijay P and also initiated by Kabra ji in detail. Our public procurement policies have really, this L1 system has made our poor manufacturing community addicted to cutting all kinds of corners to come into L1 position. Now, with this kind of mindset, when we go abroad and we try to lure into a matured buyer to buying from us based on low pricing, it's a recipe for disaster, because in the international market, when we go, we need to have very evolved understanding of the overall value proposition which the customer is expecting out of us, and unless we meet that, there is really, it's a wasteful exercise to try to go into that market. Secondly, yes, we are aiming at EMA level to become thrice of what we are as, or even more than thrice of what we are as a global player in electrical field. It's a daunting and challenging task. We need to do many things for that. And one of the key things that we are doing is we are trying to have an outreach program for the core of our membership. We already have around 150 registered sellers on it. We are making access available to customer for our MSME buyers, and we parallelly also have the exercise where we are using the benefit of expert advice, mentors, as well as expert bodies, whereby our exporters learn to go up on the compliance and certification index, which is needed for going to mature markets. Let's say, for example, US alone imports more than $300 billion of electrical and electronic systems, and China does around more than 1/3 of it. So India doesn't even figure out anything. India is not even a niche there. So, but that market has a lot of expectations. It has many layers. We need to understand our staying power, our strategic aspirations. Where do we go into the layer? That market has some players who are approved manufacturers. They will buy from you, sanitize your product as their own product, and sell it to the customer. There are markets where they expect you to do some last mile local manufacturing. There are market which expects good after sales service in terms of commissioning and warranties and O&M. So Indian company has to decide their own capability, their own staying power, their own strategic aspirations to properly define their place, at which layer they want to go, and they find a suitable local partner, which at EMA level we are working to facilitate also, so that they don't just go and offer everything and then later they find that they don't have the staying power or the organizational bandwidth to give what they have promised. So we all need that kind of understanding. Geographically, we need to understand which layer of market we want to support. We need to understand what the composition of future market will look like. With like for example, Africa has been one of the key markets for India as of today. But Africa also, the market structure will change, because Africa needs to quickly reach power to a very broad swath of people which are without power, and conventional methods of power delivery are right now not in the top of their agenda. They don't want right now to get into large capex in high voltage transmission lines. And see, right now what they want is that, okay, they have a lot of lines already built, a lot of transformers already installed or in their stores, So let's first give connections to household out of what we have, and that is why we are seeing a huge growth in last mile connectivity projects. These are going to be a large market going forward in African markets, and also Africa will have a lot of opportunities for mini grid markets because they can't invest at the time being in large scale generation plants and large scale. And India has potential because India has proven over time and time again that India is extremely competitive in solar with the kind of tariffs they are offering. But only now they need not get addicted to these kind of low tariffs. They need to understand that market will have expectations beyond. And also there's a lot of market innovation. Is not only the technological innovation, but the marketing innovations are also needed to address the market. See, India needs to collaborate effectively with developers because they don't have the money to let you install and develop. So you need to again have the right partnership with developers and again right partnership with EPC partners to get into that space. So India has no option but to go global because scope for growth domestically is limited. There is a degrowth area. There's a lot of slack to be picked up because India, since it's not a global player, the space that is getting vacated, there are opportunities for growth because the market is big and we are small player, and there is a scope for becoming far bigger than we currently are in the market. We at IEEMA, we will provide opportunities to all our stakeholders to understand what the market is, what the market wants, and how to stand up to their or reach up to their expectations. And also, we will make their interactions, their outreach, their connect with the stakeholders overseas much stronger, so that they not only are able to deal or interact with the customers per se, but their ultimate users, the consultants who decide what is to be purchased and what products is and what certifications are needed. They need to also connect with people who would do the last mile manufacturing there, where they have a requirement for buying locally. So you need to connect with last mile manufacturers. Also, there will be scope for technology transfers, which also kind of partnerships we are providing where India can provide the technology to the foreign partners, and more importantly, MSME will have access to technology from overseas vendors, so that, as Kabra said, and also Vijay said, that technological access should not be domain of the larger multinational players. Indian-bred, Indian-born entrepreneurs should have access to it. We want to work on that. That's one of the items very high on National Business Division agenda. And also, we need to provide them access to EPC contractors, to agents, and also to the front-end bidders. In many countries, they are expecting you to bid DDP, delivered locally, duty paid. Most Indian manufacturer MSC will not have the bandwidth to go into that kind of market. So they would need very strong local front-end bidders who will bid on their behalf. So this is how my view is that internationally, how to work, how to go about, what are the areas to work. You see, the Chinese, there is a pushback on Chinese. There will be space getting vacated, but it will not automatically come to India, much as we may think. We have contenders who are seriously contending for the space. Vietnam is a very serious player. All the Asian countries have taken bulk of the market which is vacated by China. So we need to upgrade ourselves technologically. We need to find out how to get into partnerships where we are able to finance local buyers in a competitive manner, because as an individual or as an export companies, we cannot do that. And we cannot solely depend on Exim Bank for that. Also, we need to develop more international partnerships, working on that. So the ecosystem has to evolve more holistically, and focus and understanding is to be very clear that we truly need to go global. While we may have very strong Indian roots, we need to have very strong global pursuits as well. Thank you.
And thank you so much, sir, for sharing your perspective on how homegrown companies can create their or define their space in overseas markets. Thank you so much. Now we would invite all the panelists for a panel discussion that is powered by RR Kabel on how their respective companies are working to ensure business continuity post COVID-19.
As a company, our responsibility is to take safeguard of our people. So as a company, we have taken care that our entire 4,600 people working in India and 600 people working out of India, that all are in safe, healthy. This is our first priority, and our entire team, top management, is working on this. And I'm proud to say that our entire team is very safe, because see, today time is not for business. First priority is to be the safety of our people. So safety has been taken care. In terms of business, we have not stopped any of our expansion. Our expansion is going as on as we decided. Of course, because of labor issues, the construction was slow. Otherwise, we as a company hoping that economy will be bounced back and much better. So as a company, we are not focusing on current year. I say, as in my talk was, we are not working month to month or quarter to quarter. We are here to work for next 5 years or 10 years. So I see a lot of opportunity, and business is fairly good, looking to other conditions, and I'm hoping that business will be further better. Even financial cycle is also improved. That is also quite challenging. People are thinking that payments are not coming, because see, our 100% business is the private sector. We don't deal with any government company at all. We have a zero business with any government, and very few business with the contractor and the developer or major business. So we don't have any financial issue also. And we are very strict now, and we are becoming more and more stricter in terms of financial. So we are doing really well, and our July month was much better than the last July because of commodity price increase. So we are supplying at old price. So our business is based on commodity price also. Sometimes it goes up, business come down. But overall, I see that people will shift to quality, and if those who maintain the quality, they will grow.
During the COVID time, of course, it was about maintaining the health and safety of our people. But more importantly, since we are into different verticals, and one of the verticals also relates to projects and services, the peak COVID time of April saw our people working on electrification of lots of areas where hospitals were coming up, both in Mumbai, outside Mumbai, in Pune, etc. And we did a lot of philanthropy and a lot of service in terms of giving rations and food and clothes, etc. to people in and around the areas, not just where we are located, but across the country. Post-COVID, there is a very definite impact on business. We have to understand that 3-4 things have happened. One is that money supply has dried up because of the banks. Large corporates, very, very large, and perhaps the most reputed of corporates in the country, if you take the top 10 reputable corporates, they have not been paying. And I believe that that's taking advantage of the situation. And, citing reasons, I can give lots of such instances. So it has been to balance between risk and reward. And the going further it's a very fine balance between the risk and the reward because we do not know which company has been impacted how and where ethics have suddenly changed in the past few months worldwide, because we are also present in manufacturing in UAE. It has had an impact. Worldwide economies have been impacted. Just now, no company or no individual, I'm pretty sure my other panelists will agree with me, nobody is looking for any kind of growth. People are looking only to sustain and keep whatever is there, keep it intact, and let the COVID impact not hit the industries. One of the good things that has happened in the COVID times is that the government and the industry has come closer, and the government is listening to the industry. Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we spoke about, it could help the local industry, but for that, a lot of policy intervention and governmental understanding will be required. Otherwise, Atmanirbhar Bharat could actually harm the country in the long term.
Straight away, I will very strongly second what Vijay Bhai said, that Make in India may be a double-edged sword unless handled properly. Because see, we are all chained to globalization, and it should not be Make in India should not be a situation where your commodity prices for the primary producers go high, and the secondary downstream producers, they become uncompetitive in the world, which is already has started happening. So the authorities they need to be extremely watchful of this, because Make in India truly will happen only if downstream industry, MSME industry, they grow. Large commoditized manufacturers preventing imports from taking place is not making it. I mean, the economy, the country need to understand it. So there, I'm elaborating on Vijay Bhai said, Make in India is a double-edged sword. It's extremely desirable objective. We are all with the government on this, but we need to understand that it should be holistically implemented, and the concerns of downstream industry has to be absolutely at the top of the mind for it to work. Number one. Number two, as Kabra ji very rightly said, the first priority was, of course, safety. First 3 months, let me say, or 4 months were spent on getting everything in place in a safe manner. But after that, things have picked up, and I can say that August month, we were at our normal operations. September, also we are at normal operations. Only thing I can say is that cash flow is still challenging, because a lot of people in banks are operating on work from home basis without being adequately ready for it. Larger customers also key people on work from home basis, and again being prepared to handle this eventuality. And processing, see, it's not only the payment constraint. See, the problem is also that of the processing of the bills. We talk of the payment situation with discoms or with government utilities or the larger utilities. See, bigger than the payment problems of the bills passed, much bigger than that, the problems is with the money locked up and tied up, the projects which are stuck at the last mile, which, as Nitin Gadkari ji in one of the interview very rightly said, that the bills that are in circulation with various bill passing officers and the system is an area of much bigger concern than the bills that have been passed but passed for the payment. So it's the whole system. In this COVID situation, what is happening? Nobody is there to take the bills through the multiple stages, because they are operating at 30% office attendance. But yes, customer they are serving. Whenever they are stuck, they make you do the job. But passing the bills is nobody's priority. And that amount runs in tens of thousands of crores of rupees.
Right.
The amount of bank guarantee that are stuck because so many projects are stuck at the last mile. See, every year we hear at government level, at budget also, that projects stuck at the last mile will be given priority. But nothing happens on the ground. That is the financial unlocking that will result from them cannot be even imagined.
Okay.
And you see, that is one very large area of concern.
I'll react to a couple things. First, I'll react to the Atmanirbhar, and then we'll go to how our company has. Is that yes, it's true that it could be it could be a double-edged sword. There are two things that EMA has been looking, or maybe the industry needs to be careful about. One is in terms of the national security, right, or the grid security. We'll have to be very, very careful, and I think that is something that we need to be independent, right? So that is something that we can't compromise. Second is the litmus test of whether it is right or wrong for the economy or for us is job creation. So I think while I totally agree that we are subject to a lot of inverted duty structures where our raw materials, like Harishji and Vijay P said, they come in cheaper, they come in more expensive than the finished goods. So the whole taxation structure and all needs to be worked out. And if you don't fix it, then we are in trouble. So while we need to fix the raw material supply and make sure that our components for which we don't have capabilities, right? So it's a capability capacity issue. So where we don't have a capability, definitely we'll have to import. But wherever we have the capability, I think the capacities needs to go up so we generate substantial employment. So I think Atmanirbhar should be looked at it from two perspectives, that we are becoming self-reliant, especially with security issues. And today, like sensitive sectors like telecom and the grid security is important. And second is that are we generating enough employment? So that's just my take on this. And I totally agree with my seniors that it is a double-edged sword. We have to walk the tightrope very carefully. On just the sales side of the company performance, I would say that, lockdown was obviously very challenging. And like Vijay P said, the entire organization was more into giving out what we could do to the community. We also made sure that we connected with everybody. So each and every employee or our distributors or traders. So that was how we kind of went through the lockdown. Other thing that we took care, and we are fortunate we were able to do that, is that we took care of all our export orders. And fortunately, we do about 40% of exports, and we are able to meet every single delivery on time, which was very critical because those factories were running while our domestic customers were also shut. They did not have issues of deliveries or supply chain, but the export factories were running. So we made sure of that. We got some permissions to reopen, and with a lot of care, we have done that. Like Kabra said, care is the big thing. So we have covered all our employees, and I'm sure most of us have, with the COVID insurance and things like that. We have replaced, do din ka chai with immunity boosters at the workplace, and take all the distancing and care that we need to take. But I think health is of first importance. We give work from home wherever possible, so that's always an option. But some of the shop floors, we need to be there on the machine. So we try to stagger as much as possible. But we are back to full capacity. Like most of us, the July, August was export is strong. So we have to sustain. We are not talking growth, but I think we are in a better position to sustain.
Question from Mr. Ramani Mani. The question is for Vijay. Vijay, how can Atmanirbhar have the potential to actually harm the nation if not executed well?
We were living in a globalized world, and where the government was always looking to the World Trade Organization and trying to support global trade across all the countries. Suddenly, from a global world, we have now come to an inward-looking world where everybody is trying to protect their local economies by stopping imports. Now, where Atmanirbhar Bharat can work well is if the government supports this with policies. The problem is that a few years ago, the government was welcoming China and looking to do a lot of joint ventures with China, and suddenly, because the geopolitical situation has changed, the policies have inverted. Therefore, on the renewable side, there was a lot of material coming in from China, which has suddenly stopped. And the local people's costs have gone up. Now, these policies need to be long-term, they need to be stable. Like if we are talking about an Atmanirbhar Bharat, then we have to build a bottoms-up approach and not a top-down approach. That means first we have to be very careful of creating the raw material manufacturing and ensuring that our raw materials do not get impacted. Otherwise, what is going to happen, like Kabraji talked about the Apple case, you will bring in assembly lines out here, but you will be importing all the components. So ultimately, the value addition in the country will be very, very little. So, the government needs to have a very focused and long-term Atmanirbhar policy. We can create clusters, we can create lots of good ideas, generate that. But if the industry is supposed to sell on L1 policy, then how will the Atmanirbhar Bharat help in creating new industries, new avenues, new products, etc.? The second part is that the commercial terms which are there, and even the government is demanding that these small manufacturers, MSME who comes in the government, is supposed to give a bank guarantee, you're supposed to give a warranty for the performance of the products. But if you see majority of these guarantees that are given, do not talk anything about product failure. They say, these bank guarantees say that I can encash this guarantee anytime, any place, anywhere, without recourse to the opener. Now, these kind of foolish terms, which even the government is implementing, can be fatal for the industry. And therefore, what now industry needs to do, government is willing to listen. I'm saying this again, but they have not been briefed about all these pitfalls, about all these loopholes that are there. And many a times what we see in the government is bureaucracy is at loggerheads with the political class, and bureaucracy is always wanting to keep an upper hand on it. Therefore, they bring out tender conditions which actually do not support Atmanirbhar Bharat. They are bringing out tender conditions where a small person, though he is capable, is not able to quote because they want a certain quantum of experience. So Atmanirbhar Bharat can only work if the government decides to change a lot of its policies, and government decides that my Atmanirbhar Bharat is a bottoms up approach and not a top down approach. Not that you give me a final Apple phone out here in India, I care two hoots if you import all the raw materials and it takes you 2 hours to assemble that phone in the country. And forget about phones, talk about everything, which the electrical industry is manufacturing. I referred earlier to LED lighting. You go and see some of these LED plants. Kabraji will agree with me. You go and see some of these LED plants, they're in a bloody shed, they're in a tent where there is nothing at all. It's just a jugaad, screwdriver technology se bana diya. Now, how do you compete? How do you get yourself qualified for foreign sales in such circumstances? Because you have very low access to capital. Government is charging highest rate of interest on your term loans. This is an inverted policy in our country that retail loans are cheaper than your loans to corporates. Nowhere in the world this is so. So you will have to change a lot of policies to get this Atmanirbhar Bharat going.
What is the dependency on the industry on a Chinese made, and the readiness and way forward to be totally Indian made? So can I ask Mr. Vipul to address this question from IEEMA's perspective?
Dependency, when you look at, there are two ways to, we keep on hearing numbers like, import of 20,000 crores and things like that. So in that aspect, I would say that a lot of imports also happen where there is a capability available in India, right? So let us first differentiate between what is our real dependency on China versus what is the thought to be dependency in China. If you go back a little bit in terms of the electronics industry, for example, right? And if you talk to people who are doing telecom equipments, most of the components used to come from Taiwan, Singapore, Japan. Today they are coming from China. If you look at that particular aspect and see that what is our real dependency, then our dependency comes not in terms of technology, but in terms of exactly what the other panelists have been saying is the pricing. So we have a commercial dependency and not a technological dependency. So if I am forced to be L1 all the time, right, then I will always be forced to go to the L1 supplier. Right? If I am given the opportunity to do a fair play, and let us accept that even UN has accepted that China is a non-market economy. We are not able to see transparently through their commercial transactions. So in terms of technological dependency, I think we are more dependent on Europe and the developed countries, right? In terms of some raw materials, and I would say some of them like permanent magnets, right? Those are the things that we are dependent. PCB manufacturing is a huge capacity out in China, which we don't have. So we have some dependency there. We have some part of dependency on other rare metals. I'm not going to say CRGO because it is partially dependent. So there are some raw material dependencies, but more so the commercial. So if we change the way we do business, which exactly what Vijay Bhai and Harishi and all of us are saying, then the technology dependence is less, commercial dependence is more.
This from Mr. Puneet Ketal. His question is to Mr. Kabra. You brought a case of excellent cable quality by which you are able to export substantially, though not much in domestic market. Does it not confirm that making a global quality is always helpful and getting global share would be definitely beneficial?
No, definitely it's a beneficial. See, because we are the only company in the world which got a 29 international approval for single factory. We were the first company in India to become RSS compliant. We have become the first company in its compliance. But my question is, when then foreign companies are respecting for all these things, why not Indian customer are doing? So we as a company or any individual or any organization cannot just depend on global market, but we need a local domestic share also. For other business we have. I just taken only case of solar cable. See, this will be a big challenge. Government is many people have invested money into solar projects, right? And companies give only 5 years warranty, and all these products start on the 6th year. So are we really focused on quality? See, L1 and the price, there should be a price competition, but it should not be at the cost of quality. This is my concern. Otherwise, as a company, RR Cable, we are very happy. Those who want quality, they come to us. Those who want quality, they don't come to us. So we have a set of criteria and customers are there. So it's not challenge for us. But how long any country can survive with lot of different standards working in the same market? So this is again my question will be there, whether we want to China way, whether we want to European way. If you want to go European way, it's 100% based on standard. And there are very strict rules are there. So like in Europe, you have a CPR. Customer product related. So anything which goes into customer has to be CPR approved. So we don't have. So these are the big challenges. Even companies are having TU approval, companies are having UL approval, and still they put it on the stamp. Reputed company put it on a stamp and it's not up to standard. That's the big challenge. So my fight is, whether I say I'm not a standard company, I say like this only. But while putting the stamp and not doing is not good for the country, not good for the economy, not good for the image of the country. So my challenge is, because of this kind of people, our country is going to lose the image, our electrical sector will going to lose the image. So this will be a challenge for everyone.
2 action points. One is that they need to correct inverted duty structure so that downstream industries are safeguarded. Okay. And second, for India, downstream industry to be competitive at exports, should be mandatory for primary producers to make raw material available to downstream industries at their own FOB export prices. They should not take advantage of an inflated domestic market conditions to make inputs expensive for the downstream manufacturers intending to exports. For exports, we have to unfortunately turn the clock back when exporters used to get their primary products from primary manufacturers at specially reserved international prices, which is their own FOB. See, they are willing to export to a foreign country at a price and not willing to give us at that price. They are their fair weather customers. When international prices go down, they are not going to buy from them. They are their permanent customers. What kind of customer service is this?
Right.
The other part is that today in India, we do not have access to hedging or to the policies that are available outside the country. So my factory in UAE is able to book 5,000 tons of copper without any kind of financial guarantees to the supplier. But in India, we are not able to unless I go and I import that material. So that means if I go and book that material with a party outside the country, I get that facility. Within India, I don't get that facility. So A is the pricing, B is the hedging mechanism, and therefore we cannot survive as an industry if we do not have the same facilities that are extended to international or what international players are extending within their countries. We are not able to get it out here. So therefore, the commodity manufacturers need a massive change in outlook because they are trying to take advantage of the Indian companies and at the same time wanting to export. So we are caught in a pincer effect.
I think IEEMA as an industry association will take up this matter with or recommendations with the government. Delegates, we hope you have enjoyed it. And before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Vijay P, Karia, Mr. Shreegopal Kabra, Mr. Harish Agarwal, and Mr. Vipul Ray. We thank our sponsor for this session, RR Kabel. I would also like to thank my colleague, Mr. Prasad Nayar, for his support. So that's the end of the today's session. I request you to stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah.